Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Well, after weeks of being stranded in a small lagoon, the young orca known as Ehattesaht, or Brave Little Hunter, is being rescued today. We'll take you through those efforts and we'll ask, why does this killer whale rescue resonate with you? What are your own encounters with beautiful whales in BC? After 12:30, other species that hit home are our own pet dogs and cats. So for this week's Pets column, tell us the story of your adopted pet. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. Thank you for joining us on CBC Radio 1, CBC Television, and live streaming on the CBC News app, cbc.ca/BC, and on the CBC Vancouver YouTube page. And you can call us now on our top story and speak on the show and let us know, why does this orca rescue near Zeballos resonate with you? What are your own encounters with whales in BC? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, pound 690 on your cell phone. You can email bctoday@cbc.ca or text us at 236-330-2623. Well, time is of the essence. The 2-year-old female transient killer whale has been stuck in the tidal lagoon near the village of Zeballos since March 23rd. And that was when its pregnant mother became trapped by the low tide and died. And for weeks, the community, First Nation, and experts, including members of the Ehattesaht First Nation, DFO, marine mammal experts, and whale scientists have been gathered there to plan how to free the orca calf. Dean Stoltz from Czech News has more on the preparations for the rescue.
Experts with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans have been planning every angle of this rescue attempt for days. The sling that will carry the orca, if it works, was tested as well. A large excavator is seen lifting the sling, then setting it into the ocean, then moving it around again into the back of a flatbed truck with rails. It's unsure where the orca will be taken after that. Plans are still in the works. This Saturday will be 3 weeks since the young orca, now named Ehattesaht, was orphaned when its mother died after it got trapped in shallow water. Several other attempts to lead the baby orca to safety since then have failed, so this well-planned rescue could be the final effort to save the orca.
That's Dean Stoltz, the Czech News reporter, and he was there over the last couple of days, Thursday and Friday. And this morning, CBC News got confirmation that the rescue team is now working on its operation. We're asking you on the open line, why does this orca rescue matter to you? Why does it resonate? And what are your own encounters with whales in BC? Our phone lines are open, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can email bctoday@cbc.ca or send a text to 236-330-2623. For the very latest on today's rescue attempt, I'm joined here in studio by CBC reporter Joel Ballard. Hi, Joel.
Hi, Michelle. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. I know I sit beside you in the newsroom, and I've seen you, heard you making phone calls and talking to other reporters as well. Tell us, what is the effort that's happening today?
Well, really, today's effort came as a bit of a surprise to probably anyone who wasn't involved in the rescue itself. Ask any reporter here, and we were pretty shocked because yesterday we were hearing how the rescue was likely going to happen in 4 or 5 days, but continuously through this whole process, we've heard from the experts that this is a complex rescue mission that depends on a lot of factors lining up. Is the weather, do we have the right conditions with the weather? Are the tides high? Are they low? Are they where they need to be? Do we know where the stranded orca calf's family pod is? Are they waiting nearby? So without talking to the rescuers yet today, because obviously they're a little busy, we have to assume that perhaps some of those elements have lined up, and that's why we had this sudden initiation of the rescue today.
And we did hear from the Department of Fisheries and Oceans saying, okay, we can confirm that we've started this attempt.
Yeah, so we heard a bit from Dean Stoltz there in his pack, but basically what we know in the preparations, and who knows if this has changed for today, but as of yesterday, the plan was to use a large net to sort of corral the orca, named Quiseus, as you said earlier, to sort of corral it to an area so they can capture it. And to do that, they might even have to tranquilize the calf. At that point, they will get it onto a sling, and we saw some of those rescue efforts that they were practicing yesterday, where an excavator will lift the sling, ideally with the orca in it, out of the water, and we saw them practicing moving that sling over to the bed of a transport truck.
Wow.
And then the goal is, of course, getting the orca out to the ocean where it can hopefully be reunited. But of course, it's a challenging rescue because this is a large, live, unpredictable animal.
Absolutely. I mean, when I just imagine when we work with little fish in our aquariums, trying to lift it in our little nets and think about that kind of operation. And now this orca, this 2-year-old calf, it's been stranded there for nearly 3 weeks now in this, shallow lagoon. What do we know about her condition?
Yeah, so I had a chance, or CBC News spoke with Andrew Trites. He's the director of UBC's Mammal Research Program. And he said one of the biggest concerns why this is so critical that this rescue happens is because the whale needs to eat. We did hear reports from DFO who said they saw the whale with a bird in its mouth, which is good news. But of course, whales, they're large mammals. And this type of whale, a transient killer whale, it eats mammals. It doesn't just live off of fish like our southern residents. So it requires an abundance of food. And not just that, but it needs fresh water, which it gets from mostly its food.
Wow. Okay. So again, it's like fingers crossed that all things have aligned. The conditions are well enough so that they can continue with this rescue, and she is basically taken out to open water. What is the plan once that happens?
Well, one of the other challenges we heard from the Ehattesaht First Nation yesterday is that they were told by the DFO that they aren't sure whether the calf's family pod can actually hear its calls. So, of course, it calls out through the water, and usually the water reverberates that sound and it can travel. But because that sandbar is so shallow, it's hard for that sound to get through. So they don't even know right now if the family is receiving that message. So right now the plan is to bring it to open water where hopefully they will be able to connect it with its family pod. And then that brings up the question of, will someone in that family pod take on those motherly roles? Because of course the calf's mother passed away. So will the grandmother, will the aunt take on those roles? It's kind of unprecedented at this point, and we just don't know.
It is a matrilineal family, isn't it? Joel, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Joel Ballard staying on this story for us as the rescue attempt of a trapped killer whale calf is underway near Zeballos on Vancouver Island. And we're asking you, why does this rescue effort matter to you? And what are your own encounters with whales in BC? We know it is such an emblematic species right here in British Columbia. So we're asking you why this rescue of the orca matters to you. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Tony is calling us from Port McNeill. Hi, Tony.
Oh, hello. Nice sunny day up here in Port McNeill. It's a great day for the nearby whale rescue.
Bodes well.
My thoughts on that were quite a bit simpler, sort of a simpler plan to try first. Now, I know there's been a lot of experts involved and there's heavy equipment involved and lots of planning that's going into this. However, my idea, if this fails, maybe my idea has some value. I drove out there the other day to get the lay of the land, and I've been following this very closely on all the news reporting. And I did notice that the local band had been out there in their white-colored canoe and tried to get the whale to leave. They've been trying to get it out the exit. Now, my experience growing up on a wooden sailboat that was painted black with white topside was that very frequently we had orca whales following for miles and miles and miles, and sometimes they would follow us into bays where we were going to anchor
Because of that black and white color.
because of that black and white color. So what I did was use the Microsoft Paint program, and I took the image of the white canoe off of the news, and I painted some sort of orca designs on it with the black and white, and I sent that image off to the band, and I was suggesting that perhaps if they had some volunteer paddlers to paddle it to paint it or put some temporary vinyl stickers on there to give it some orca appearance, that
Wow.
perhaps if they were to paddle it in a circuit on a regular basis and put some time in, that the whale may follow. And then in the evenings when there's no one to paddle, you could moor the canoe near that exit point. And
That is quite the effort you've made yourself, Tony. Can you tell me why this matters to you?
Well, of course, we have concerns for these whales. This is part of our environment where I live, and I've spent, I've got Scandinavian descent, and we are sea people, and these things matter to us, and letting that whale do what it needs to do is important.
Okay. Well, Tony, thank you very much for the call, and thanks for the report from having been there over the last few days.
Yeah, okay.
Continue.
Well, thank you. Enjoy your day.
You
Bye
too.
for now.
That's Tony at Port McNeill. If you'd like to call us too, 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Let us know why you're watching the rescue attempt. It's been over close to 3 weeks now since this young orca was stranded in a lagoon near Zeballos. Well, I have two guests joining me now. Eric Pelkey is the hereditary chief of the Sawut of the Wasanic Nation, and he's also the community engagement coordinator with their leadership council, which runs Marine Guardians program. And Donna Sandstrom is the executive director of the Whale Trail, and that's a group that has over 100 sites and walking trails from California to BC to view orcas and other marine mammals. Hello to you both. Thanks so much for joining us.
Hello, good to be here.
Really, it's all eyes on this rescue attempt right now. Eric, let me start with you. What is your take on the rescue, attempted rescue now over weeks, but today, this attempt to rescue Ehattesaht, a brave little hunter near the Ehattesaht First Nation?
Well, we certainly are keeping a close eye on this because we consider it the Cathalamachin. That's a killer whale in our language. Cathalamachin is our relatives, and that particular Cathalamachin would be our little brother. So we hold them very sacred, and when the killer whales, the Cathalamachin, passed through our territory, our elders told us that they used to know each one of them. They had a name for each individual that came through our territory because they said they always came back. They always came back, and we have stories of them guiding our people to safety and watching over them. And the name Cathalamachin came from the death of one of them, and that it so upset our nation that after that our elders gave the name Cathalamachin, the sacred name to all of the killer whales that came through our area. So we hold them very sacred, and that's why the Finnish Leadership Council got involved and brought in that Guardian program for the Cathalamachin that journey through our area and live in our area.
And for the Wasanic Leadership Council, what is the meaning of this rescue attempt? The significance of the orca and the relationship between your nation and orcas.
Well, we feel that every Cathalamachin has a family. They all travel and they gather and they live as families out there, just the way we do. So we feel it's really important to get the little brother back to its family, and so that it can thrive again and grow to full good.
Donna, at the whale trail, how closely have you been watching these attempts?
Oh, we've been following it very closely. Uh, I started the whale trail because I was inspired by my experiences with another orca rescue. 22 years ago, I was a community organizer on the effort to return Springer, a northern resident orca who'd been stranded down here near Seattle.
Right.
She was successfully rescued, brought back to her family on the north coast of Vancouver Island. And today she's got two calves of her own. It was and is the only successful orca reunion in history.
Yeah.
And we are all pulling for this little whale and hope she is the second.
Well, a couple of years ago, there were events celebrating the 20-year anniversary of the rescue of Springer. What can be learned from that rescue operation?
So many lessons. First of all, that orcas can go home again, that they can be successfully reintegrated with their families. And that was as much a function of how humans came together, how a great community came together to bring the whale home, and then how the orcas responded when she came home. Springer's pod, her mother had died, but her grandmother and her aunts and her extended family were still alive. And they came by less than 24 hours after she was returned, almost as if to pick her up. So it wasn't she had some time. She'd been in human care for about a month, so she needed to develop some stamina and the ability to keep up with them. But by the end of that summer, she looked like she was fully integrated. So, and again, her continuing success that she has two calves now, just fills all of us with hope and a little bit of awe.
Absolutely. Let's take another call. Oh, okay. Let's go back to the North Island, and at Port Alberni, Rodney is joining us. Hi, Rodney. Rodney, are you there? Rodney.
I am
hi.
a friend of the whales. Such a close friend. I've had him come up to me in my boat and patted him on the nose and looked him in the eye. Getting only see one eye at a time,
Yeah. Why? And it sounds like you're quite emotional about this today.
I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to settle down here a little bit.
That's okay.
I just love him so much.
Yeah. What is it what goes through you?
I'm a scuba diver. I'm a swimmer. 100%. I'm Pisces. I'm in the water all the time.
Yeah.
Or I used to be. Now I'm getting too old to be in the water, and I miss it a lot. Maybe that's what my tears are about.
Yeah. And are you watching the
I'm watching it on TV, yeah.
Yeah.
I turn the volume down like you asked.
Yeah. Well, I'm really glad.
You know what?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know what? I don't know what I'm going to say here. I miss the killer whale so much.
Are you worried about
Swimming with it.
yeah, for yourself because you're not able to anymore? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I used to just hug them.
Yeah.
It allowed me to put my arms on them.
Why do you think British Columbians do have, I mean, you yourself have this close relationship, but they are such an emotional being for British Columbians?
Well, they talk to me.
They,
I don't know their language.
yeah.
They talk to me. They have a highly sophisticated language.
Do you have one incident, one encounter that you'd like to tell us about?
Oh, for sure. How about saving my life?
When did that happen?
Oh, when I was quite young. Like I was only 19 or 20 years old, and I'm out in the street in a little boat, and a storm blew in, and I fell in the water, and it pushed me to shore. What do you think of that?
That's remarkable.
What do you think of that? Kept me head out of the water, everything. It knew exactly what to do to save my life.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I survived that.
Well, Rodney, you've kept yourself together for this call. I appreciate you sharing that with us.
It's a remarkable animal.
It really is. Thank you very much.
It's more human than a lot of humans I know. That funny?
It's so nice to speak with you at Port Alberni.
Yeah, okay.
Take care.
You're kind of got a nice voice too.
Okay, take care. Thank you very much. That's Rodney in Port Alberni. 12:26, 1:26 in the Mountain Time Zone. This is BC Today. Well, Paul Spong is the president of the Pacific Orca Society and founder of the Orca Lab, and he spoke to the early edition this morning on CBC and said that this rescue will be challenging.
This little one, 2-year-old baby, is in an incredibly difficult place. It's a very, very long inlet that ends up near Zeballos on the west coast, and it's almost impossible to imagine how she got in there because it's a really tricky place. She and her mom must have been chasing a seal or something like that, and in any event, they ended up there going under this bridge, probably at high tide, I would think. And unfortunately, the mom's stranding and dying. So now, as far as I really only know what I saw in the news yesterday. Now there's a plan somehow to capture her, put her in a sling, and transport her up to the west coast, and put her in I believe it's to put her in a pen in the ocean and wait until her family shows up. It's perhaps that part of it, might be relatively simple, but the capturing her and putting her in a sling, I think, is incredibly challenging.
That's Paul Spong, president of the Pacific Orca Society and founder of the Orca Lab. And call us now to speak on air. Why does the killer whale rescue near Zeballos resonate with you? What are your own encounters with whales in BC? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. My guests are Eric Pelkey, the hereditary chief of the Sawut of the Wasanik Nation, also the community engagement coordinator with their leadership council, which runs the Marine Guardians program, and Donna Sandstrom is the executive director of the Whale Trail. And they have actually established a network of sites and walking trails from which you can view orcas and other marine mammals. And Chief Pelkey, I'll go back to that stewardship. Why do you think, your nation and the Ehattesaht First Nation have this sense of stewardship over this particular orca? Oh, I think we don't have audio right now on Eric Pelkey. Oh, there you are. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, we as a nation feel we have an obligation to protect all of the Patholomuchin in our territory in whatever way we can, because they are our relatives, and we know how they travel through our territory and require to live in our territory. So we as a people feel that we have an obligation to help protect them. So that's why we brought about the Italian program to marine mammal protectors, and we patrol the waters and try to keep the people away from the Patholomuchin as they journey through our territory, because there can be a lot of accidents that can happen if people get too close to them, and injuries from marine vessels and so forth. So we try to patrol the whale trail that comes through our area to make sure that they have safe passage and they are protected. So I think that's the obligation we've been handed down by our ancestors.
And Donna, that is also the goal of the whale trail, isn't it? To be able to view these creatures from a safe distance. And why is that, inspiring people about marine mammals, but also making sure to be able to view them safely without risking putting any risk to these animals? Why is that important to you?
Well, again, I was so inspired by Springer's success and how the government agencies, nonprofits, and people came together, everybody bringing their best selves to the table to give that whale a chance. And now we have the same challenge with saving our endangered southern resident orcas. Saving a population is different than saving a single whale, but it is the how we can do that is the same, which is we put the best interest of the whales first, and we follow the facts. And the facts are that orcas are acoustic animals. They need to be able to echolocate to find their food. So the three threats facing the orcas, there's a lack of salmon, too many toxins in the salmon they eat, and vessel noise and disturbance makes it harder for them to find what food is there. So it's one simple thing that we can all do is watch southern residents from shore. That's in fact the only safe way to watch them for the whales, because every time a boat, NOAA Fisheries put out a paper 2 years ago showing that female southern resident orcas will abandon a hunt. They can have a salmon in their sights and they'll abandon it when any vessel gets closer than 400 meters. So they're especially sensitive to noise and disturbance. So one of the simplest things we can do is give them space, kind of build this acoustic buffer around them. So their acoustic world shrunk a lot because of our impact with vessels. And if we give them the space to find the salmon that's there, that will let them increase their resilience and be better off, be able to hear each other as well. Well, watching from shore is fun, and it's also an act of conservation.
There it is. And, you mentioned, yes, being able to hear each other. One crucial step here is that once the calf is taken into open water, its pod is able to hear its calls. And that is crucial to it being reunited with its family. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you so much to both of you. We are all watching this so closely. Thank you for bringing your passion and care for this beautiful creature to our airwaves today. Thank you.
Thank you, and good luck to the team.
Yes. Yes, everybody's sending their good wishes, their good vibes, and best of luck for sure. That's Donna Sandstrom, Executive Director of the Whale Trail and author of the Orca Rescue. Eric Pelkey is the Hereditary Chief of the Sawut of the WSÁNEĆ Nation, also the Community Engagement Coordinator with their Leadership Council. We will have a call for you coming up after the news here as well. Karen is waiting on the line in Victoria. I can't wait to hear from you, Karen. And we'll speak more about the whale rescue, the killer whale rescue that's going on right now, taking place today near Zeballos, of this calf that has been trapped there for nearly 3 weeks. And we are watching that. The roads are closed to this lagoon right now, but we're getting hopefully some updates from the DFO later today. And we'll talk more about that with Karen in Victoria, and we'll take your calls on adopted pets as well. That's coming up after the CBC News Update with Robert Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. The federal government is rolling out a new national housing strategy. Among other things, it will open the door for the federal government to lease and build on underused public lands. It also promises a new mapping tool to track the inventory of available public property. A man who stabbed a 79-year-old to death in a Nanaimo coffee shop 2 years ago has been found not criminally responsible. James Turok was convicted of second-degree murder in the death of Eric Kutzner, but will instead stay at the Provincial Forensic Psychiatric Hospital. The judge in the case ruled Turok's mental disorder made him incapable of appreciating the nature of his actions. And as we've been hearing on the show, the operation to rescue an orca calf trapped in a lagoon off Vancouver Island is continuing at this hour. Officials say the plan is to use a sling to lift the orca out of the lagoon and transport it to open water. Rescuers have been seen practicing lifting the sling with an excavator and moving it to the bed of a transport truck. And now the forecast on the north coast, mainly cloudy this afternoon with a high of 7, highs up to 13 with strong winds and some sunshine in the Peace. In the central interior, including Prince George, mainly sunny with a high of 11 degrees, highs up to 17 and cloudy in the Kootenays. In the southern interior, mainly sunny with a high of 17 as well. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, lots of sunshine this afternoon with highs around 15. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Thank you very much, Rob. As Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. And this is BC Today here on CBC Radio 1. And I just want to read an email to you that we got yesterday. And because I talked about yesterday, April 11th being my Caniversary, my arrival in Canada in 1988, decades ago now. But Sandra wrote, I arrived April 11th, 1981, a newlywed from London. It snowed the next day in Richmond. But even so, I completely relate to the amazing views and hardly believing I really was here as I journeyed over the Granville Street Bridge into Vancouver to work each day. Now, you're noting the date and occasion had me remember. It was so special. I got my citizenship as soon as I could. 3 years later, I feel so lucky to have met a Canadian and that he came from beautiful BC. I had to learn to ski. What a hardship, haha, in order to share in his world. I took lessons in Mount Seymour with a friend. So certainly I didn't have ski aspirations when I was a child, but it was a lot of fun. A lot of life has happened since, but Lester and myself are still together, and we have a beautiful daughter who loves to travel but chooses to work here in Vancouver. We still work as cartographers. We drew the world, and it brought us together. What a beautiful story, Sandra. Thank you for sharing that. Very happy Caniversary to you. You know what? Let's open it up. If you remember the day you moved to Canada, email us bctoday@cbc.ca. We are following the rescue underway today of Ehattesaht, or Brave Little Hunter, as she's been named by the Ehattesaht First Nation. And the rescue is of this trapped orca calf, which has been trapped in a shallow lagoon near Zeballos for nearly 3 weeks. And we'll give you updates on that rescue underway as soon as we have them. But we've been asking you why this matters to you and what your own encounters have been with whales in BC. And Janet wrote us from Richmond. I'm praying the whale rescue goes well. Whales are beautiful and awe-inspiring creatures. Plus, Canadians need a good news story. And Pam writes, years ago up coast, I found a large humpback lying in a shallow area in front of my house. I mounted a rescue, which was successful. The story is too long to tell today, but the memory of the relief will never leave me. Sounds like we'd love to hear your story at some point, Pam. Thank you for that. Now, Karen is on the line in Victoria to tell us about why this rescue matters to her. Hi, Karen.
Hi, and thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, thank you for holding on. I know you've been waiting. Why does this story resonate with you?
Well, I'm an animal advocate for all animals, and I've had the honor of seeing orcas in the wild once when I was on the West Coast Trail a number of years ago. And hearing about this story, hearing about this mother losing her life, and she has an unborn child, and now her other child has been left orphaned, was just horrible. Knowing the complex social family connections that they have, and it was just made my heart sink. It's very very heartening to see the people putting all this effort into trying to find, a solution and get this young whale back to her family. Really, I was telling the screener there, it restores my faith in humanity when I think many of us need to have our faith restored.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to say, it's very upsetting to hear people calling the whale it when they're reporting on the story or talking about her. Especially we know her gender now. I believe she's female, and it. When we talk about a table or a chair or a couch, we call it it, and these are not inanimate objects. This orca and all other animals, and to say they are it. Puts them in the property sort of a lesser category. Really, we should be calling they are somebody's child, somebody's mother, somebody's aunt or uncle. And really, if we respect animals and want to change the discussion and the feelings around animals and their importance and show them respect, we really should be calling them he or she. If we know the gender, they, if we don't, and basically apply, the same language as if we didn't know the gender of a human child and, we were talking about them in a story.
Okay.
It shows respect, and I think it will, for many people, change the dialogue around animals.
That's a fair critique. Fair critique.
We share the planet with them all.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the call. That's that's a fair critique. I appreciate your point on that. I go back and forth. I've been going back and forth between it and she in reporting, trying to be as accurate, of course, as I can be. But yeah, I'll take your point on that. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. That's Karen joining us from Victoria. It is 12:42, 1:42 in the Mountain Time Zone. Lots to think about here on the show today with regard to all the creatures in our lives and in our world. And, every couple of weeks here on the show, we talk about our pets in our homes. And today we are talking about pets once again. Our pets column is back. And now we'd like to hear about your story of adopting the pet in your life. Have you found your pet through adoption? And so we're asking you, tell us your story. What's the story of your adopted pet? You can call us and share your story on the air. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can email bctoday@cbc.ca. And I have two guests with me today. Adrienne McBride is the Senior Director of the BC SPCA's Community Animal Centres. Pamela Sadler is the founder of the Broken Promises Rescue in Victoria. Hello to you both.
Hi there.
I'm sure you're watching this killer whale rescue closely as well as animal lovers yourselves.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, and we know that there are so many pets that need rescuing, need adopting. Adrienne, what's the need right now?
Yeah, it continues. Post-pandemic, we certainly are seeing the impacts of our pet populations have increased, and we see that coming out in the shelters. Yeah. Lots of kittens and puppies available for adoption that, before the pandemic, we would have had a lineup out the door for a puppy, and now they're in care for, a few weeks before we find that right adoptive home, which is such a change for us really? in the adoption sphere. Yeah, absolutely.
So it doesn't usually take weeks.
No, puppies have always been so popular, like that sort of what everyone's after is a puppy, which I totally understand. And so pre-pandemic, there wasn't a lot of puppies that came into the rescues and shelters. But now post-pandemic, we're seeing a lot of that fallout of the increase in breeding that happened during the pandemic. Those are now unwanted puppies coming into the SPCA's care. And the demand for puppies isn't the same as it used to be. So it just takes a bit longer for them to find the right home. And lots of factors for that. The cost of living is not to be forgotten in this conversation, that adding a pet is increasing your cost of living, the cost of veterinary care, finding pet-friendly housing, all of those things can really factor into whether or not a pet's, the right time to bring a pet into your life. And so we're certainly, seeing some of that impact as we look at our adoption trends.
Yeah, a lot of factors to contend with. Pamela, what led you to found Broken Promises Rescue? What kind of animals do you work with?
We're an all species rescue, so I'll pretty much take anything as long as I can find a foster home. So generally dogs and cats. We're receiving like a brutal amount of guinea pigs coming in right now for some reason. As well, I have taken farm animals. I've had alpacas and pigs, and so as long as I have a foster home, I'll take them.
Wow. And why did you want to do this?
Oh, I've always been an animal lover, and I kind of didn't really plan to do rescue. It was kind of just fell into it. I offered to bake cookies at a bake sale for another rescue, and next thing you know, I was president and had a house full of kittens. And, so it's kind of came by it naturally though, because I've always loved animals and brought them home as a kid. Typical stuff. So so it's definitely rewarding.
What need did you see out there?
Well, right now it's definitely escalated as well. I used to, doing rescue generally, we'd take, animals from shelter systems or stray and abandoned animals. But right now I'm getting every single day. I already got 3 today of owner surrender requests.
Really?
So we definitely have a huge need. And like we mentioned about the, animals are not getting adopted as quickly as they used to. I have some kittens that were born in my house a year ago, April. So a year now. And they're still waiting for a home. So it's the housing issue, the costs, everything's escalated the problem. So.
And just so we have our terminology right, you mentioned fostering. What's the difference between fostering and adopting?
Fostering. So because I don't have a shelter facility, we're a volunteer run organization. So I don't have a place to put the cats or dogs or alpacas or whatever I get. Until I have a foster home. So that's generally people will come forward and offer to put them into their homes. So they go there until we find a forever home. So that's the difference. They go there temporarily until somebody applies to adopt them.
Okay. So there's a difference there. And that may be a way to, for anyone who's interested in fostering, we can talk about that as well. What that can do in terms of acquainting yourself with the process. Let us know what your own story is. Have you fostered or adopted a pet? Love to hear the story of your pet adoption. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. Deb is calling us from the Kootenays. Hi, Deb.
Hello.
Hi, and tell us your story.
About a year and a little bit ago, I adopted a 5-year-old schnauzer who the previous owner sort of misrepresented the issues this dog had. She had fence aggression. She had other animal aggression.
Wow.
She was anxiety ridden. She was very protective. If you moved too fast, she would nip out at you. Long story short, I thought to myself many times, what have I done? But I promised her when we walked through the door that she would never feel anything but love in this house. She would never be disciplined other than with my stern words in this house. And we have stuck to that. And she's not fully recovered from all her anxiety issues, but 3/4 of them are manageable now. And she's just a lovely dog.
Wow. How do you feel coming through that?
Some days I feel like we haven't gone far enough, but when others come to visit, they are amazed at what patience and love will do. And I don't say that like I elevate my dog to the level of human, but she is a part of this household and she is a family member, and the issues she had, I always felt she deserved to be given the help to work through, not through any fault of her own.
Yeah.
Dogs don't become this way through the fault of their own. They learn it. And so we've unlearned a lot of bad habits, and she is she is turning into quite the little gem.
A gem of a family member. Deb, you're on the road. You're on the road.
I think so.
Yes, congratulations. Way to go, sticking with it.
But if anybody, if anybody worries whether they have the patience, if you've done a fairly good job raising your children, you can do a very good job raising or helping a dog or a cat or, out of some bad habits. Just takes patience.
A lot of patience, maybe a bit of a sense of humor as well. I see my guests smiling there as they're listening to you. Deb, thank you so much for the call. What a great, inspiring story. That's Deb in the Kootenays. And Jade is up next now at Harrison Hot Springs. Hi, Jade. What's the story of your adopted pet?
Hi there. Good morning. Love your show. I had a incident of 7 dogs showing up at a place I was working in southern Alberta.
Oh.
I know. And after weeks and weeks, I was able to find places for them, and I ended up adopting the dad of all these dogs. And I didn't even want a dog, but here he is, and he's like the light of my life now.
What was it? Where did they come from? What was their story?
It is on a website that for the place that I was working at in southern Alberta. It's called Good Striker Valley Ranch. They did show up. We don't know where they came from, but it was during that time when there was the fires and there were animals being surrendered, and there was absolutely no place for these dogs. So it did take about 6 months to eventually find places for all of them. We were fostering, but we're not even a foster place. And so, but we managed. And all those animals are now spayed, neutered, and they have their forever homes. So it's not an impossible task, but it was incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
So, but here I did. Now I have my little blue heeler dad dog. So he's great, and it was just quite an experience, and it was difficult, but it was a great outcome, So
difficult.
You work at it, and eventually, these dogs are well loved.
Absolutely. Jade, thank you so much. Wow, having been through the wildfires and again talking about how difficult it was, but really worthwhile. Mary Jane is our last caller from Half Moon Bay. Hi, Mary Jane. You've adopted a dog as well.
Yeah, she came to us. They'd been breeding her, using her, and had been treated very poorly. And the person we got her from quite literally grabbed her, ran, called the SPCA, and then, of course, she couldn't find anywhere to live that would take a dog. So we took her just sort of on a part-time basis, because my partner said no dogs, but I love dogs. So about a month in, my partner looks at me and says, "You think we should phone Sarah and see if she wants us to keep the dog?" But the poor thing, she was scared to death of people, skin and bones, scared of other dogs. And now she just loves other people, and his other dogs are just happier. And my partner, well, it's her dog now.
Yes, that's right. That's right. She was won over by this dog. Mary Jane, all the best to you and your partner and your dog. Okay, thank you so much. I have to wrap it up, unfortunately, but I love your story. All these stories. Let me go back to my guests, Adrian McBride and Pamela Sadler. It sounds like it is very challenging at the start, right? What advice do you have, Pamela, first, just a quick word of advice for people who would be going through this and why it's worth it, I guess. Yeah.
To adopt, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely worth it. As we all know, animals are so caring and loving, and no matter you having a bad day, they're always there for you. It's just, and they're so needy, right? So it's just something that totally needs us to care for them.
Yeah.
But it's definitely worth it. It can be a bit trying when you're looking. There's so many animals now looking for homes, but you do have to, think outside the box and what it's going to be to care for them financially, emotionally, and make sure you're looking for the right fit as well.
Okay,
So
those are good
not
factors.
just that cute little puppy or cute little kitten,
Right.
but you need to also look at, like this dog is going to grow into a high energy dog. Am I willing to exercise it that much? Or do I need one that's a bit more sedate? Or I work 8 hours a day. Is that dog going to be suitable for that? Or, so you do need to do your research as well.
Very good advice. And Adrian, what about for you? Some tips for our audience?
Yeah, it really resonated when one of the callers was talking about the patience that you need when you
Yes.
bring a new pet into your home. And, I have to think about the pets that are in rescue and in our shelters available for adoption. Their whole life has turned upside down. Some of them have been removed from awful situations
Yeah.
or been dropped off or abandoned. And then, they have some time in a temporary, whether temporarily in the shelter or temporary in foster home, and then they come to your home. And so their whole life has just been upside down. And then now they're trying to learn what you want from them in your home and what, sort of learning and getting to know each other. And that process can just take some time and some decompression. And, I added a dog to our home in November, and I just feel like we're starting to settle into everybody knowing each other and knowing routines. And it's taken some time and definitely patience, but it's been worth it. And I think that's the message that we heard from all the callers, is that it's hard, but oh my goodness, is it worth it?
I bet. Oh my goodness, just looking at some of the photos we're showing right now. And I visited a friend with a rescue a little while ago as well. And I fell in love myself. So I get it. I get why there's so much joy. Thank you so much to both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great to speak with you. Adrian McBride with the BC SPCA and Pamela Sandler with Broken Promises Rescue in Victoria.